Hare Krishna, thank you for joining. We'll begin with the pranam mantras. Om Jnana Timirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha Mukham Karoti Vachalam Pangum Langayate Girim Yat Kripatam Aham Vande Shri Gurun Dinataranam Shri Chaitanya Manobishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamahyam Dadati Sapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Padakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamsa Shri Rupam Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvisesa Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prastaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swamin Iti Namine Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvisesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine Namo Vishnupadaya Krishna Prastaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Iti Namine Shri Varshabhanavi Devi Daitaya Kripabdaye Krishna Sambandha Vikyana Daine Prabhave Namaha Madhuri Ujjvala Premadhya Shri Rupa Nuga Bhaktida Shri Gaura Karuna Shakti Vigrahaya Namastute Namaste Gauravani Shri Murtaye Dinatarine Rupanuga Virudapa Apasiddhanta Dvantaharine Namo Gaura Kishoraya Sakshat Vairagyamurtaye Vipralambara Sambodhe Padambujaya Te Namaha Namo Bhakti Vinodaya Sachidananda Namine Gaura Sakti Swarupaya Rupanuga Varayate Gaurvir Bhumistam Nirdesta Sajjana Priya Vaishnava Sarvabhoma Shri Shri Jagannathaya Te Namaha Vanchakalpatarubhyascha kripa sindhuvya eva cha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namaha Namo Mahavadanyaya Krishna Prema Pradayate Krishnaya Krishna Chaitanya Namine Gauratise Namaha Panchatattvatmakam Krishnam Bhakta Rupa Swarupakam Bhaktavataram Bhaktakyam Namami Bhakta Shaktikam He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dina Bandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namastute Jayadam Sudatopango Mama Mandir Matirgati Matsarvasya Padambojo Shri Radha Madan Mohano Divyad Vrindaranya Kalpadrumadaha Srimad Ratnagara Simhastanastito Srimad Radha Shila Govinda Devo Prashtali Sevyamano Smarami Shrimandrasarasarandi Vamsi Bhatta Tatastita Karshanvenu Swamir Gopi Shri Gopinathaya Shri Estuna Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Srivasadi Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Narayanam Namaskrityam Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswati Dhyasam Tato Jayam Udiraye Shinvatam Sakata Krishna Punya Shravana Kirtanaha Hridyantasto hi abhadrani vidunoti srihisvitam Nashtaprayeshu abhadreshu nityam bhagavata sevaya Bhagavati uttama shloker bhaktir bhavati naistiki Hare Krishna and thank you all for joining. Today we are continuing to discuss from chapter number 18 of Canto 1 Srimad Bhagavatam titled as Parikshit. Maharaj Parikshit is cursed by a Brahmana boy. So far, in the first 12 verses, we saw that Suta Goswami is continuing to narrate, in short, the birth and activities of Maharaj Parikshit. And basically what is happening is, in the previous chapter he discussed the rulings of Maharaj Parikshit, and how he ruled and how he defeated Kali and he threw Kali outside his kingdom. And then in this particular chapter, the sages are later going to ask questions on the basis of which the final pastimes of Canto 1 will happen, and after that the Canto 2 will begin, which is actually the discussion between Maharaj Parikshit and Sukadeva Goswami. So how Maharaj Parikshit and Sukadeva Goswami met and all these discussions, how it began. So this is the beginning of the last pastimes of Canto 1. Therefore here we see in the first few verses, Sutta Goswami is discussing about the birth of Maharaj Parikshit in the beginning in verse 1, and in the second verse it discusses about the consciousness, how he was surrendered to the Lord and how the Lord actually protected him, even at the time of his birth and at the time of his death. And he was so Krishna conscious that he was not overwhelmed by the fear of Takshaka. So this statement would lead to the question that how Maharaj Parikshit gave up his kingdom and what happened. So these questions will be asked by the sages later. And he surrendered everything before his death. This is talking about him giving up all the material association. He surrendered to Sukadeva Goswami as a disciple, because he wanted to understand what one should do at the time of death. So that was the verse number 3, and the verse number 4 is discussing about the key for glorious death. What is the important element? How can we consider someone's death to be glorious? Now we'll see that the entire Srimad Bhagavatam is the narrations of many pastimes of the devotees in the Lord. But the central theme is how one should live his life so that he gets success at the end of the life. And the success of the end of the life is Ante Narayanaspati. If somebody can remember Krishna at the time of death, that is the success of his life. So how one can reach to that stage, and how devotees have done this or how they have led their life, which helped them to remember Krishna at the time of leaving the body. So these are the discussions in Srimad Bhagavatam. So what are the keys of glorious death? Number 1 is have dedicated their lives to the Supreme Lord's topic. Basically hearing Supreme Lord's topic. That is the first qualification or first key. And the second key is are constantly remember his lotus feet. So these are the two things. And then in the 5th and 6th verse, Sutta Goswami discusses this Kali's situation in Maharaj Parikshit kingdom. What was this situation? He was actually he couldn't flourish. The Kali could not flourish in presence of Maharaj Parikshit. And though the Kali Yuga has a lot of ill characteristics, but there is one good characteristic. What is that good quality of the age of Kali? So the good quality is that if somebody even that thinks about intending to do good things, then they get the result. But for a bad result to take effect, or a bad karma to take effect, actually they have to do it. So that is the good quality of the age of Kali. And then the Kali, the effects of the Kali is actually fearful for the less intelligent people. Right? And thus, he concludes this discussion about the importance. Sutta Goswami concludes the discussion about the importance of hearing Bhagavad Gita. What is the importance? Those who are desirous of perfection in this life must submissively hear the topics concerning the transcendental qualities and wonderful activities of the Lord. So if we want to get perfection of life, then we must submissively hear the wonderful qualities or the transcendental qualities and activities of the Lord. So continuing that theme, the verse 11 to 17 is discussing the eagerness of the sages to hear Krishna Katha. So they want to hear more. Since Sutta Goswami has concluded his discussion in the 10th verse, they still want to hear more. So therefore they were actually eager to hear more. So in their eagerness, they first glorify Sutta Goswami. Now, Sutta Goswami narrated the pastime or whatever he heard. He was present in the assembly of where the discussion between Sukadeva Goswami and Maharaj Parikshit happened. And he narrated this, the discussion as it is. Now, this is a very good quality, and as a practicing devotee, we also must follow the same principle. The principle is you deliver the message without altering the principles of it. So without having any hidden agenda, we should deliver the message as it is. So therefore they are actually, because Sutta Goswami was doing that, therefore they are actually glorifying Sutta Goswami. So in the 11th verse they say, "Oh auspicious Sutta Goswami, may you live." So this is a blessing, kind of blessing to him. "May you live many years and have eternal fame, since you narrate the nectar of Lord Krishna to us mortals." So he is narrating. So because Sutta Goswami narrated it, actually we are able to get this message. The discussion happened and then it was written down and this message was passed to us as it is. So first of all they bless him and they also thank him. And then they talk about their condition. So they were in Naimisharanya, they were performing the yajna for 1,000 years. So because when the yajna is performed, there is a lot of smoke. So they are saying that our bodies are blackened by the smoke of this uncertain sacrifice. It's because they didn't know that what would be the result of the sacrifice. Their purpose was for the purification, or for they could see the effects of the age of Kali. So therefore they wanted to actually help the living entities who are born in the age of Kali. So therefore they were performing all these sacrifices. Now when the sacrifices were performed, there was a lot of smoke, and because the smoke blackened their body, first of all they don't know that the sacrifice is going to really help them or not, or secondly their bodily conditions were not very clean. So but there was one good thing: simultaneously they were hearing Krishna Katha, and so they were saying that one side is the sacrifice, other side is Shravanam, but we are pleased by the intoxicating nectar of the lotus feet of Govinda. And that was being narrated by Sutta Goswami. So they are very happy, they were very excited to hear these narrations. Now this verse, today's verse, which is the power of association, they are continuing to glorify Sutta Goswami. So they are now bringing up a very important point about the power of association of pure devotees. So what is the power? That is being discussed in this verse number 13. So somehow by Krishna's arrangement, today is also Guru Purnima. So in the auspicious day of Guru Purnima, this verse we start reading this particular verse about the importance of associating with the pure devotees. So Srila Prabhupada, who is a pure devotee, and in his association so many of us got benefited. So that is the power of association. But here this verse is saying that even if we associate for 1/11th of a second, lavena api means is 1/11th of a second. It is more beneficial than other things. So let's read the verse and then go into the details. Tulyama lavena api na swargam na punarbhavam bhagavad sangi sangasya mrityanam kim ut asisaha. The value of moments association. So here the moment is defined as lavena. Lavena is 1/11th of a second. The value of moments association with the devotees of the Lord cannot be even compared to the attainment of heavenly planet or liberation from matter. So it is such an important thing that even a moment's association of pure devotees, it cannot be compared with attainment of either heaven or even liberation from matter. And what to speak of worldly benedictions in the form of material prosperity. So definitely it is higher than getting some worldly gains or going to the heavenly planets or even liberation, which are for those who are meant for the death. So this material prosperity is for people who are entangled in the cycle of birth and death. So therefore this verse is so important, and because of the presence of one pure devotee, the entire world is now benefiting. And that is Srila Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada, in his later age, he took troubles, so much trouble actually, to come to the West and give us or deliver us this message of Bhagavad Gita as it is. So there is no comparison. So there is no comparison. Prabhupada in the purport is saying that there is no comparison. When there are some similar points, it is possible to compare one thing to another. One cannot compare the association of pure devotee to anything material. Right? This material and spiritual, these are two different things. So anything gained in the material platform cannot be compared to the spiritual platform. Therefore, Prabhupada is saying that there is no comparison. These similar points can be compared, but here there is absolutely no comparisons. Now, what is devotees' aspiration? Men who are addicted to happiness aspire to reach the heavenly planets like the moon, Venus, and Indraloka. And those who are advanced in material philosophical speculation aspire after liberation from all material bondage. So basically the materialist, they want to go to the higher planetary system so they can enjoy more, and somebody who is little advanced than them or more advanced than them, they want liberation from the material bondage. When one becomes frustrated with all kinds of material advancement, one desires the opposite type of liberation, which is called as Apurbhava or no rebirth. But the pure devotee of the Lord do not aspire after happiness obtained in the heavenly kingdom, nor do they aspire after liberation from the material bondage. So they don't want any of this. They don't want even liberation. In other words, for the pure devotees of the Lord, the material pleasures obtained in the heavenly planet are like phantasmagoria. So Prabhupada likes this word phantasmagoria. And because they are already liberated from all material conceptions of pleasure and distress, they are factually liberated even in the material world. So what do the devotees want? The devotees want to serve Krishna. That is aspiration of pure devotees. Now serving Krishna is also possible in this material world. So they are also not aspiring to get liberation or go back to Godhead. Now this is the highest level. So when we come to Krishna consciousness in the beginning, our initial desire is we want to go back to Godhead. So, and that's a good desire, because if you want to go back to Godhead, then the purpose of going back to Godhead is there is less distraction. The chances of distraction in this material world is much higher. There in the spiritual world, all the souls have similar desire. They have same desire as Krishna's desire. So their performance of devotional service is much easier in their association. However, the devotees who are pure, they do not even desire to go back to Godhead. So whatever the Lord desire is their desire. If Krishna wants me to stay in this world, that's fine, I'll serve here. Krishna wants me to go to hellish planet, then I'll go there. But always our consciousness should be that this the pure devotees thing, that please make sure that my consciousness remain pure under any situation. So Prabhupada says over here, this means that the pure devotees of the Lord are engaged in transcendental existence, namely in the loving service of the Lord, both in the material world and in the spiritual world. Therefore, this line is so important, that the services which we are performing with pure intention. What is pure intention? The intention is only to please Krishna. That is pure intention. By my activity, may Krishna be pleased. So that is the that is the pure intent, and that is the only intent of the devotees. So it doesn't matter whether the person is in the material world or whether the person is in the spiritual world. In both the condition, he is actually serving Krishna, and his intention is to serve Krishna. No other intention in his life. So Prabhupada gives a nice analogy for this, and he says this: as a government servant is always the same, either in the office or at home or at any place, so a devotee has nothing to do with anything material, for he is exclusively engaged in the transcendental service of the Lord. So this example of a government servant is a government servant at home or at work or at marketplace. Everywhere is the same. His title is same. So similarly, a devotee is a devotee everywhere, and the effects of the material world doesn't actually cause any disturbance in performing his service. Since he has nothing to do with anything material, what pleasure can he derive from material benedictions like the kingships or other overlordships, which are finished quickly with the end of the body? Devotional service is eternal and it has no end because it is spiritual. So spiritual is the devotional service itself is spiritual in nature, right? And therefore, it's not tinged by anything material, or it cannot be contaminated by anything material. Therefore, since the asset of a pure devotees are completely different from the material assets, there is no comparison between the two. There is no comparison between the material and the spiritual. There is no comparison. You cannot actually compare both of them because they are in a totally different level. So, what is the desirable association? Prabhupada says the desirable association for somebody should be the association of a devotee. So Suta Goswami was a pure devotee of the Lord, and therefore his association with the rishis in Naimisharanya is unique. In the material world, association with gross materialist is veritably condemned. The materialist is called as Yoshit Sangi, or one who is much attached to material entanglement, women and other paraphernalia. Such attachment is conditioned because it drives away the benedictions of life and prosperity. And just the opposite is Bhagavat Sangi, or one who is always in the association with the Lord's name, form, quality, etc. Such association is always desirable, it is worshipable, it is praiseworthy, and one may accept it as a highest goal of life. So this should be our highest goal, as mentioned here, that our desire should be to associate with pure devotees, not with the materialist, because our thought processes are completely different. And when we associate with the materialist, what happens is we take their desires. As soon as we associate with them, whatever their desires becomes our desire. So this verse is so important, that Krishna, what happened? Let me bring this up. Yeah. That the association or the moments association of the devotees is so important. It is also discussed in other scriptures in Chaitanya Charitamrita in Madhya Leela 22:54. This verse is explaining the same thing. That is sadhu sanga sarva shastri koy, lava matra sadhu sanga sarva siddhi hoy. So here Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is saying that the verdict of all revealed scriptures is that by even a moment's association with pure devotee, one can attain all success. And I was saying in the beginning that lavena, so that I took that meaning from here. According to astronomical calculation, a lava is 1/11th of a second. So even if we associate with the devotee for 1/11th of a second, it is all beneficial to us, because just by their association we get everything which we want. And the most important thing of life, that is bhakti. They can give us bhakti because they have it. Bhakti can be only received from a bhakta. From nowhere else we can receive bhakti. So therefore, by their association we can immediately receive their blessings, and we receive bhakti, the bhakti lata bij. There is another verse in Srimad Bhagavatam where Lord Shiva is actually talking to the prachetas. He's saying that shana ardhena. So there the word which is used for the time period which is used is lavena. Lavena is 1/11th of a second. Here the word which is used is shana ardhena, or by half a moment. So shana ardhena pitulye na swargam na purna bhavam bhagvat sangi sangasya nityanam ki kim utasisaha. If by one chance associates with a devotee even for a fraction of a moment, shana ardhena, he no longer is subject to attraction by the result of karma and jnana. So if one associates for a moment, a fraction of a moment, with a pure devotee, then the effect is that he is no longer subject to attractions by the results of karma and jnana. Basically, he is not interested in karma, and then he becomes disinterested in karma and jnana. Then what interest then can he have in the benedictions of demigod who are subject to the laws of birth and death? So basically, then they don't want to be, they will not have any interest in the material goods. So that's what is the meaning of this. So the point is over here that even a moment's association with a pure devotee, or fractions of a moment association with a pure devotee, can take away our attractions from karma and from jnana, and of course from the matter. Right? So here in the last paragraph, Prabhupada says that Bhakti Yoga is sufficient to give the Bhakta all happiness, because ultimately we are all looking for happiness. Right? Isn't it? Whatever we do, we want to make sure that we become happy. So Prabhupada says that Bhakti Yoga has the capacity to give us all kinds of happiness. As stated in Srimad Bhagavatam 1.2.6, it is Yayatma Suprasidati. One can be fully satisfied simply by devotional service, and that is the result of association with a devotee. Without being blessed by a pure devotee, no one can be fully satisfied, nor can anyone understand the transcendental position of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So that is important. So when we associate with the pure devotees, one can be fully satisfied by performing also devotional service. And the association means we get their blessings. So without being blessed by the pure devotees, then we cannot we don't get the bhakti. So that is the importance of um, associating with pure devotees. By their association, we get the blessings of pure bhakti, and then we get disinterested in the results of karma, or you can, or jnana, etc. So these two verses are verses from Bhagavatam, as well as Chaitanya Charitamrita, which indicates the results of associating with the pure devotees. Even moments association is really beneficial for all of us. Let me just close this. Okay, so verse number 14. को नाम तृप्य द्रसावित् कथ्यं महत्तमा एकान्ता परस्य नश्य नान्तं गुणानाम् अगुणस्य जग्मुर् योगेश्वरेया भवपादमुखः. So in the previous verse is discussed about the power of association of the pure devotee, and in the 14th verse, in association of devotee, what should we do? We actually hear, and there is no satiation in hearing. Means you will not get satisfied. Satiation means when we start, suppose we are very hungry and we start eating food, so after a while, our stomach becomes full and then we get satiated. But this doesn't happen in hearing the topics of Krishna. Actually, there is no satiation in hearing. Once we start hearing, then we want to hear more and more and more. So that is what being discussed in this verse, that how people do not feel satiated even after hearing the katha forever. So the personality of Godhead, Lord Sri Krishna or Govinda, is the exclusive shelter for all great living beings, and his transcendental attributes cannot even be measured by such masters of mystic powers as Lord Shiva and Lord Brahma. Can anyone who is expert in relishing nectar or rasa ever be fully satiated by hearing the topics about him? So first, the comparison between Krishna and the Lord, the comparison is in the sense that the qualities of Krishna is so great that it cannot be even measured by Lord Shiva and Lord Brahma. And when we hear this is a rhetorical question. Rhetorical question is the question itself has answer. So the rhetorical question is, can anyone who is trying to relish the nectar of Krishna Katha be ever satisfied, is fully satisfied by hearing this topic? So yes, so basically it's saying that you can continuously hear, you will not get satiated, and you will be fully satisfied, and you want more and more. So there is no end to it. Basically, you will never be satiated by this. So Prabhupada in the beginning is differentiating the chief devatas and the Supreme Lord. That there is a difference between Lord Shiva and Lord Brahma and the Supreme Lord Krishna. So Lord Shiva and Lord Brahma are two chief of the demigods. They are full of mystic powers. For example, Lord Shiva drank an ocean of poison, of which one drop was sufficient to kill the ordinary living being. So Lord Shiva's position is really very high. He is Vaishnavanam Yatha Shambhu. Among the Vaishnava, he is the topmost Vaishnava. And he has many such capacity, which is kind of impossible for the living entities to perform. And one such thing which he did was, he drank all the poison which came out from the churning of the ocean. So even a small amount of poison can kill living entities. But even he drank everything, and then he could store that in his throat. Therefore he is known as Nilakantha. Similarly, Brahma could create many powerful demigods, including Lord Shiva. So they are Ishwaras or lords of the universe. But they are not the supreme powerful. They are not the most powerful. They are Ishwaras, but Krishna is Parameshwara. The supreme powerful is Govinda, Lord Krishna. He is the transcendence, and his transcendental attributes cannot be measured even by such powerful Ishwaras as Lord Shiva and Lord Brahma. Therefore, Krishna is the exclusive shelter of the greatest of all the beings. Brahma is counted among the living beings, but he is the greatest of all of us. So, there is position-wise, the Lord cannot be compared with Lord Shiva and Lord Brahma. Now, in our 10 offenses, one of the offenses is this: it's offensive to compare the position of Lord Shiva and Lord Brahma. And why is that? Because you are reducing or bringing down Krishna to their level. They are actually Ishtadev of Lord Shiva and Lord Brahma. Krishna is Ishtadev of them. And if you bring Krishna to their level, then it is that's a reductionism. You're reducing Krishna's position. So therefore it is offensive. So therefore it's considered as one of the offense in chanting the holy name. So what is Krishna's real position? Krishna is a reservoir of all enjoyment. And why is the greatest of all the living beings so much attached to the transcendental topics of Lord Krishna? Why are we actually interested in hearing about Krishna? Why is that? Because he is the reservoir of all the enjoyment. He is Rasaraj. Everyone wants to relish some kind of taste in everything, but one who is engaged in the transcendental loving service of the Lord can derive unlimited pleasure from such engagements. So everybody wants to become happy. There are different kinds of happiness. Happiness in the mode of goodness, happiness in the mode of passion and ignorance. So these are different kinds of happiness. But associating and hearing Krishna Katha is beyond these three modes. It is transcendental, it's divyam. And anything which is divyam gives us eternal pleasure, right? Or unlimited pleasure. The Lord is unlimited, and his names, attribute, pastimes, entourage, variegatedness, etc. are unlimited, and those who relish them can do so unlimitedly and still not feel satiated. So because this is a reason why we will not feel satiated, because the Lord himself is unlimited, and relishing his name, form, name, attributes, pastimes, entourage, everything connected with Krishna, these are all unlimited. So then, therefore, we'll never get satiated. This is a fact. It is confirmed in Padma Purana. So Prabhupada gives the verse which discusses this. So ramante yogino anante satyananda chitatmani iti rama padane sau param brahma bhidiyate. The mystics derive unlimited transcendental pleasure from the absolute truth, and therefore supreme absolute truth, the personality of Godhead, also is known as Rama. So one who gives unlimited pleasure, an unlimited transcendental pleasure. So that is the meaning of name Rama. So in the Hare Krishna Mahamantra, the word Rama is the meaning. A lot of time Prabhupada was asked, what is the meaning of Ram? So some devotees asked, can we consider it as Lord Ram? So Prabhupada said, yes, you can consider that. This is also the meaning. This is another meaning, which is saying that he's a source of unlimited transcendental pleasure. So that is the the meaning of Rama. There is no end to such transcendental discourse. In mundane affair, there is law of cessation, but in transcendence, there is no such satiation. Yeah. Suta Goswami desired to continue the topic of Lord Krishna before the sages of Naimisharanya, and the sages also expressed their readiness to hear from him continuously. Since the Lord is transcendence and his attributes are transcendental, such discourses increases the receptive mood of purified audience. So therefore, they wanted to hear more Krishna Katha from Suta Goswami. Verse number 15. Tanno bhavan vai bhagavata pradhano mahatma ekanta parayanasya harer udaram charitam visuddham shusatam no vai vitan nato vidan. O Suta Goswami, you are learned and pure devotee of the Lord, because the personality of Godhead is your chief object of service. Therefore, please describe us the pastime of the Lord, which are above all material conceptions, for we are anxious to receive such message. So, as I discussed earlier, that they are going to ask Suta Goswami to narrate more. So they are not satiated. They want to continue this discussion. That is, therefore, they are saying that, please speak more. So here in this particular verse number 15, there are three things which is discussed. One is the qualities of a speaker. So Suta Goswami was narrating this katha. So what is the quality of the speaker? The speaker is Bhagavata Pradhana, which means that the personality of Godhead is your chief object of service. So the speaker is only talking about Krishna. He is only speaking Krishna katha. So that is the qualities of a speaker. What is the quality of a hearer? So we are very eager to hear. So the qualification of a hearer is they are always eager to hear Krishna Katha, and they are not satiated by hearing Krishna Katha. And what is the subject matter? So the subject matter is describe the Lord's magnanimous and pure pastime. And please describe the pastime of the Lord. So basically the speaker is a person who only speaks about Krishna, or who is only interested in speaking Krishna Katha, and the hearer is very eager to hear. So when these combinations happen, then the discussion that happens is actually Lord's pastime, which is magnanimous and which is very pure. So this is the verse number 15. So Prabhupada discusses the activities of a qualified speaker and audience. The speaker of the transcendental activities of the Lord should have only one object of worship and service, that is Lord Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And the audience for such topics should be anxious to hear about him. When such a combination is possible, namely a qualified speaker and a qualified audience, it is then and there very much congenial to continue discourse on the transcendence. So when hearer and speakers basically have one desire, the purpose is one, their purpose is one, and the purpose is speaking and hearing Krishna Katha, then this continuation of transcendental discourse can keep on going. Opposite to that is professional speakers. Right? So Prabhupada also brings up this topic from time to time to tell us that we should avoid the professional speakers. We should avoid hearing from professional speakers, because when they speak from a professional level, they have an ulterior motive, and the ulterior motive could be anything. So when we hear from them, actually we get their desires and we inculcate their desire. But if we are hearing from a pure devotee, then we get the desire of the pure devotee. Now, what is the desire of the pure devotee? They want to hear, or they want to only speak about Krishna and glorify Krishna. That is their only motive. The intention is to only praise Krishna. There is no other intention. So professional speakers and materially absorbed audience cannot derive real benefit from such discourse. So there will be some benefit, because they are speaking Krishna Katha, there will be some benefit, but that will not be the real benefit. Professional speaker make a show of Bhagavata Sapta for the sake of family maintenance, and the materially disposed audience hears such discourse of Bhagavad Sapta for some material benefits. So both have material, one has material desire to earn some money for maintaining their family, and other has desire to gain something material by hearing the katha for some material benefit, namely religiosity, wealth, gratification of the senses, or liberation. Such Bhagavatam discourses are not purified from the contamination of the material qualities. So when this kind of Bhagavad Katha happens, then this is actually doesn't give us the real benefit. So what was the nature of discourse at Naimisharanya? But the discourse between the saints of Naimisharanya and Sri Shuta Goswami are on the transcendental level. There is no motive or but for material gain. So this is the motive. There is actually no motive for material gain. In such discourse, unlimited transcendental pleasure is released both by the audience and by the speaker, and therefore they can continue the topics for many thousands of years. Yeah. So how they can continue? Because they are relishing the pastime, unlimited transcendental pleasure. They are getting something. What is this? They are getting the unlimited transcendental pleasure. And when they get unlimited transcendental pleasure, then it can continue forever actually. Now Bhagavad Saptas are held for 7 days only, and after finishing the show, both the audience and the speakers become engaged in material activities as usual. They can do so because the speaker is not Bhagavad Pradhana and the audience is not Shushrusutam as explained above. So both doesn't have proper qualification. So when we begin our spiritual journey, we are also not very qualified because we have our material baggage. But gradually, by associating with pure devotees, we purify ourselves, and by constantly reading the purports and deeply going through this the purports of Srila Prabhupada, which forces us actually to change our nature, and it helps us eliminate our material baggage gradually, and then gradually get purified. So then our intention becomes pure when our intention, as we keep hearing, as we keep reading Bhagavad from the purport, especially of Srila Prabhupada, then Prabhupada makes sure that it brings us, it elevates us gradually and takes us to the platform where we can gradually begin pure devotional service without any other intention. The intention is only to serve Krishna. That gradually that kind of consciousness is attained, and the way it is attained is by reading, systematically reading the purports of Srila Prabhupada. Verse number 16. Savai Mahabhagavata Parikshit Yena Pravarga Akyam Adabra Buddhi Gnanena Vayasaki Sabditena Bheje Khagendra Dvaja Padamulam. O Sutta Goswami, please describe those topics of the Lord by which Maharaj Parikshit, whose intelligence was fixed on liberation, attained the lotus feet of the Lord, who is the shelter of Garuda, the king of the bird. Those topics were vibrated by sons of Vyasa, Srila Sukadeva Goswami. So now they want to hear a particular topic. Now what is that particular topic? They want to hear about Maharaj Parikshit, that how he attained Lord's lotus feet. How did he attain that? Please narrate that pastime. So this is what is spoken in verse number 16. So people have different kind of attractions, and that's what Prabhupada is narrating in his purport. He's saying there is some controversy among the students on the path of liberation. Such transcendental students are known as impersonalists and devotees of the Lord. The devotees of the Lord worship the transcendental form of the Lord, whereas the impersonalists meditate upon the glaring effulgence of or the bodily rays of the Lord, known as Brahmajyoti. So these are different attractions. Some people have attractions towards the form of Krishna, and some people have attraction towards the bodily rays or the effulgence of Krishna, and that is known as Brahmajyoti. Here in this verse, it is said that Maharaj Parikshit attained the lotus feet of the Lord by instructions in knowledge delivered by the son of Vyasadeva. Vyasadeva, who is Asura Shukadev Goswami. So here in particular, these sages of Naimisharanya, they want to hear about Maharaj Parikshit and what was his perfection. His perfection was he attained the lotus feet of the Supreme Lord.